What's up guys? What I would do an interesting video for you guys today. Wanted to talk about a little bit about the Sullivans. So the other day, obviously it was Sunday, they uploaded what is probably one of their biggest vlogs of the year. It was the birthday vlog for the two sets of twins. Obviously, and they went to this skating rink. Now obviously they were at the skating rink. Zoe was skating with the kids, and Ben was filming them. But not only was he filming them, but he was also filming other people's kids as well. Now, that to me, I thought wasn't really appropriate. That he was it kind of comes across as a bit sort of ignorant and disrespectful. The fact that he was filming other people's kids when he didn't really have permission to do that. Especially when, he was filming that with the intention of sharing that footage of them on the rink, or on the skating rink on YouTube. It shouldn't have been. At the end of the day, if I had seen him stood there filming, I would have gone over there and I would have smacked that hammer out of his hand and broken it. I'd have wished somebody had done that, as it would have been funny. It would have been funny had somebody done that. And I wouldn't have, if somebody had done that, I wouldn't have said they were in the wrong. I'd have said they were in the right, because he should be filming other people's kids when he doesn't have permission to do that. Yeah, if he wants to film his kids and film his kids, by all means. There's nothing wrong with that. But filming other people's kids when you don't have permission to do that, it's not acceptable. Like, it's not appropriate. At least if they'd have had permission to do that, then that's fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. But to be doing that to be filming other people's kids when they don't have permission, when he didn't have permission, it's not right, to be fair. And the worst, the thing about it is, the fact that obviously, Ben is obviously, but they think it's okay to film other people's kids without their permission, without the parents' permission. But it's funny, because if somebody else was filming their kids without their permission, that Ben and Zoe would have a massive fuss over that. They genuinely would have a massive fuss over it. They really, to be fairly honest. They wouldn't be happy about it. So why do they think it's okay to film other people's kids without their parents' permission? It's not acceptable. It's not appropriate. At least they should have done is just blur his faces out so nobody could actually see them. But unfortunately, they didn't. And I think at the end of the day, they should have turned the hammer. They should have had the hammers off and not been filming other people's kids when they didn't have permission to do that. It's not really appropriate for the most part, and I don't feel bad for saying that, because I feel like it should be said, or it has to be said. It's like, obviously you see it all the time with the Inhams, like they're filming other people when they without their permission, and showing other people on their vlogs without that person's permission, and I just think that's really kind of disrespectful, and and also kind of somewhat ignorant as well, as it's like, if how they would react if somebody was filming them without their permission. They would hit up a right stink up over it. And it's the same with Ben and Zoe. How they would react if somebody was filming their kids without their permission. They would have gone carry over it, and they would have caused a massive scene. But apparently it seems like it's okay for Ben to be filming other people's kids without their permission. As I said, if he'd have had permission to be filming other people's kids, then fair enough. But he obviously he didn't have permission to be filming anybody else's kids. So therefore, he shouldn't have been filming anybody else's kids. He should have only been filming his kids, and not anyone else's kids. There was no real reason for him to be filming anybody else's hits in general anyway. You know, I don't feel like I'm being harsh for saying that, because I feel like he needs to say it, to be fair. And, I don't know what else to say. It's just completely and utterly wrong to be filming somebody else's hits when you don't have permission to do that. Like, at least if you have permission, that's not a bad thing. That's not, it's not so bad. But filming other people's hits when you don't have permission, like, that's just completely inappropriate. And it's just, it's a bit out of order. Because we know how they wouldn't like it if somebody else was filming their hits without their permission. So why do they think it's okay to do it? Why do they think it's okay to film other people's hits without their parents' permission? Especially when they've got the intention of showing that footage on YouTube, which is what their full intentions were. And you know that. It's just ridiculous. And it's hard to stick up with people who think it's okay to do things like that when they know that they wouldn't like it if somebody else was doing it. As we know for a fact that Ben and Zoe wouldn't have liked it if somebody else had been stood there filming their hits. They would have picked up a right fuss over it and made a bit of a scene. But Ben thinks it's perfectly okay to be filming somebody else's hits, which is why I'm saying that I wouldn't. If somebody had gone over to him and smacked that hammer out of his hand and broken it, I would have actually applauded them for that, because I think it would have been the right thing to do, and I wouldn't have blamed them for that, because he shouldn't be. At the end of the day, it's Ben who is in the wrong, because he shouldn't be filming other people's hits without their permission. And I think the problem with people like Ben and Zoe is they know that it's wrong to do things like that, but they just don't really give a shit. Obviously, they know what they're doing is wrong. They know they shouldn't really be doing it, but they just don't give a shit. They know people call them out for it, and sometimes I feel like that is what they want. I feel like sometimes they want people to call them out for doing things like that. Like, they show themselves doing things they shouldn't be doing because they want to be called out for it. And people, rightly don't call them out for that, because they shouldn't have been doing that. He shouldn't have been doing that. He shouldn't have been filming other people's hits when he didn't have permission to do that. If he'd have had permission to do that, then fair enough. Film away. But he did not have permission to be filming anybody else's hits. So therefore he should not have been doing that. But the fact that he was, it shows it shows disrespect. It shows a certain level of ignorance. Because you shouldn't be doing things like that. You shouldn't be showing things like that. You should be doing, saying that, it shows a certain level, as I said, does show a certain level of ignorance and disrespect to be filming anybody else's hits when they don't have permission to do that. If they want to film their own hits, then film them by all means. But don't be filming other people's hits when you don't have permission to be doing that. It's just not right. It's completely and utterly unacceptable to be filming somebody else's hits when they don't have permission to do that. At the end of the day, there's no real justification or excuses for the fact that they were filming filming other people's hits without their permission. There's nothing right about that. There's nothing good about the fact that they were doing that. It's just completely and utterly wrong. And there is no condoning that. There really, really isn't any condoning that, and it has to be said. As I said, if somebody had gone over to him and smacked that hammer out of the hand, out of his hand, I would have said that I would have said that was fully justified. I would have said that person would have had a justifiable reason for doing that, because he was filming other people's hits without their permission. So if somebody had smacked that hammer out of his hand and broken it, they wouldn't necessarily have been doing anything wrong, because it would have been the least they deserved, the least that he deserved for filming other people's hits when he didn't have permission to be doing that. And if he wants, as I said, if he wants to film his own hits, fair enough, then fair enough to, film away. But don't be filming anybody else's hits when you don't have permission to do that. It's just disrespectful and ignorant at its very best. And that's putting it mildly. I don't think there's anything positive to really say about it. The fact that they were filming other people's hits without their actual permission. As I said, if they had permission to be filming anybody else's hits, go ahead and film away. But if you don't have permission to be filming other people's hits, don't film them. Film your own hits because obviously you don't need to have permission to do that. But you shouldn't be filming anybody else's hits when you don't have permission to be filming them. That just shows a pure level of disrespect and ignorance. That's what it shows. And as I said, the Unims have been known for doing it as well, filming other people and showing other people in their vlogs without that person's permission. And they've never gone into trouble for that, but, they've done, unfortunately, that's something they've done quite a few times. And again, that does show a certain level of ignorance and disrespect, the fact that they were filming other people and showing other people in their vlogs without their permission, without that person's permission. As we all know how people like us and Sarah would react if somebody had filmed them and shown them in a video without their permission. They would absolutely hit the roof. They would be demanding that video be taken down. They would be shaming that person to the to the moon and back. If someone had done that to them, but they think it's okay to film other people and show other people in their vlogs when that person hasn't given that permission. It's like it feels like it's sort of one rule for them and one rule for other people. It's like they wouldn't like it if somebody did it to them, so why do they think it's okay to do it? It's like they wouldn't be, they wouldn't be happy if somebody else was filming. It's like the Sullivans, right? They wouldn't be happy if somebody else had been. They would not have been happy if somebody else had been stood there filming their hits. So why did Ben think it was okay to be standing there filming other people's hits when he didn't have permission to do that? Why did he think it was okay to do that? Why did he think that was a respectful thing to do? It's a very disrespectful and quite an ignorant thing to do. I have to say it for what it is. It's disrespectful and it's ignorant at its very best to be filming somebody else's hits when you don't have permission to do that. There's nothing right about that. There's nothing acceptable about that. It's just, I have no idea. I have nothing else to say. There's nothing else I feel like I need to say about this. As I feel like I've said what really needed saying. This is what I do with my channel. I say the things that need saying sometimes. And when I see things like this, I feel like parents deserve to be called out. But I feel like people do deserve, or do quite rightly deserve, to be hauled out for doing things like this because it's so wrong. That they're filming other people's hits without their permission. It's just completely unacceptable, and it's just not an appropriate thing to do. At least if they'd have had permission to be filming other people's hits, then it wouldn't have been a bad thing. But they didn't have. It's like they didn't have permission to be filming it. Ben didn't have permission to be filming anybody else's hits, and there was no reason for him to be filming anyone else's hits. He should only have been filming his own hits, not filming anybody else's hits, which is what he was doing, and it's completely and utterly wrong. As I said, the least he could have done is blurred people's faces out. At least if he'd have done that, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been that bad. But the fact he didn't even bother to blur people's faces out, which would have been a respectful thing to do, in that, especially when you know that you're filming footage that will be going out on YouTube, at least blur those people's faces out. Instead of, it's just a respectful thing to do. But the problem with people like Ben and Zoe is they wouldn't know what respect was if it hit them in the face. They have an A-star grade in disrespect and ignorance. But when it comes to respect, they wouldn't know what that was if it slapped them 20 times each in the face. It has to be said. It's appalling that they think it's okay to be showing other people's hits, or to be filming it. It's actually appalling and disgusting that he thought it was appropriate to be filming other people's hits without their permission. And so, as I said, I would have applauded someone had they slapped that hammer out of his hand and broken it. I would have done that myself if I had been a parent there, and I'd have stood there and I'd have seen him stood there filming not only his hits but filming my hits as well. I would have gone over there and slapped that hammer out of the face out of his hand. I would have said, "What the fuck are you doing? why are you filming my hits? You know, film your own fucking hits. Don't be standing there filming mine. You know, it's like, it's just pure disrespect and ignorance at its very best. That's all I can say. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.